speaking of the broods, a lot of people ask, and no, this is not the Pandora box. We'll get the Pandora box later. But a lot of people ask, about the brood and how the brood came along. Well, if you remember in the last episode, as I rambled quickly through a lot of things, I touched base on the baloney blowout with Luna when we watched the movie The Lost Boys. So the brood, for myself, comes from the movie The Lost Boys. It was a group of vampires. So when I was pitching my character, which became the Gangrel character, which was the vampire warrior at the time, but I was just pitching, I was always pitching a group of vampires, not myself, because I was a big Freebirds fan, right? I loved the Freebirds. Thought they were the best thing in the world, the six man, any given time they could rotate who's in and out defending, when they were tag champions, defending the belts and stuff like that. Now, don't get me confused with the trios. I think the trios are entertaining, but I like a good old-fashioned faction like the Freebirds and stuff. So I was always pitching that. But, they didn't want WWF at the time. Vince McMahon himself told me he would never use the vampire character. He says, I had the fangs permanently bonded in. After all the years of Superglow, I think it went to my head that I just said, oh, well, I'll just get fangs bonded in. So I had the fangs permanently bonded in. And I don't think Vince McMahon was a big fan of that. He goes, hey, kid, I had a little mohawk going on, a skullet or whatever you want to call it, a mohawk and actual fangs bonded in. He goes, get rid of the fangs. Lose some weight, grow your hair in, man, and we'll give you a job. And true to that, he did. I dropped 30, 40 pounds, got some abs, grew my hair in, got rid of the fangs, and I did end up with a job eventually. And we'll cover that in other stories in future times. But the whole time, I was pitching not myself, the vampire thing. I was pitching like the brood thing. Well, when they hired me, like I said, Vince McMahon said he would never use the vampire thing. Well, Vince Russo had creative control. I'm not sure of the exact details, but after they hired me, they told me, like I was in All Japan on a tour, working for All Japan, and Johnny Ace came to me and he says, hey, I got good news and good news, but the bad news is I'm going to need to answer now. And I go, what's that? He goes, Mr. Baba, they want to offer you a year deal here for All Japan, and WWF says you got a contract waiting on you when you get home. But WWF has to know now, you got to tell Mr. Baba. So I had like a week to make that decision, And then going back and forth with Luna and different things, we all know where I went. I ended up going to WWF at the time, which is now WWE. So we get there. So I signed. I come home. There was actually no contract. It was a bit of a swerve there. And then it was. Turns out when they did offer the contract, they were trying to offer developmental at the time. And I was like, I'm confused. I could have went to All Japan. Long story short, I ended up signing it. They tell me when I do it. Then they said, hey, we're not gonna use you probably for like a year. So you're probably just gonna sit home and just chill. I was heartbroken. I didn't want to sign a contract to wrestle, to sit home and not wrestle. So I was heartbroken, just like anybody would that's a performer. You want to get out there and do what you love. I still get to do it every weekend. I'm super blessed. So I was heartbroken then and feeling like when you're just peaking at what probably was, I was 29 or something like that. So right at my prime, you're peaking. At least I thought I was in my head. I was like, what? I was crushed. But that only lasted a week. Turns out Vince Russo, I don't know what the exact details are, but I'm pretty sure he got creative control for like 30 days. So it was a Friday, and he asked me, hey, he called me up. He says, what are you doing? I go, I just got back from the gym or whatever it was. It was a Friday afternoon. He goes, hey, can you still do the vampire thing? I go, sure. He goes, can you be ready, be on a flight Saturday to do TV on a Sunday? I was like, so I had this a panic mode. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's cool because I always wanted to do the vampire thing, but yeah, I got rid of the fangs that were permanent, and I didn't want to have to go back to super gluing the nails back in them out because I'm pretty sure that super glue has done some damage, and I am the way I am because of that super glue, which like it or not, but that's who I am. But I panicked, so I said, sure. And I ran right out, much like when I explained to you earlier how the vampire character happened for Lestat in Puerto Rico, where I ran out and got organized. So first stop was Hot Topics. So I run out and I get I find the Puffy Poet shirt, and then I think I stopped at Journey's next and bought a pair of New Rocks. So I got the New Rocks, and then also on Hot Topics I got those suede black, purple, maroon pants that you would see. So there you go, right out of Hot Topics, right from your local mall to WWF ring it was, And then I just got some fangs that were pretty much like costume. They were not cheap like dime store fangs, but they weren't by no means quality fangs. So they were prop like type of things. So I pulled all that together and get it there, and we go. Well, so I get there. It turns out the reason Vince Russo rushed this whole what turned out to be Gangrel thing is because of Edge. They didn't know what to do with Edge. They needed some way to bring him in. In their minds, he looked gothic. They wanted him to do, I think they wanted him to do something kind of like, you remember when Heidenreich used to sit on top of the Titantron and read poems? I think they wanted to call Edge, Riot, and they wanted him to read like dark poetry up there, like Edgar Allan Poe or something, on top of like things and his long coats. And he was smart enough, I think, to decline that. So they didn't know what to do, but then they had this idea like, they could shuttle him in through me. And then like my number one job, and I was told this, was to bring him in, look over him, get everybody to like him. Because I've been wrestling since 1987. So I did a lot of overseas tours and stuff like that. So like I knew a lot of the older guys, plus being with Luna for all those years. She was second generation. Her father was Butcher Vachon. Her uncle was Mad Dog. Her aunt was Vivian. So she came from a wrestling family. They ran a TV show, a wrestling TV program in Canada. So like I knew everybody through her one way or another. It was a very small world in the wrestling world for me because of her, and plus also doing all the overseas tours and stuff like that. So I was there. They wanted that Gangrel thing for Edge, but my first thoughts go back to the Lost Boys. Like I kept saying, hey, it'd be really cool if you had a group of vampires. I said they don't have to win. They just got to have like cool jackets with chains, and they just go out there. They could lose every night as long as they're cool at losing, And so I'm picturing the Lost Boys the whole time, and I'm like this, and which became the Brood, right? It was the Brood, and they're like, oh no, so like no, we don't. They didn't even like the vampire thing. They just Vince Russo, he liked it. He saw it as a way to shuttle Edge in. Give him somewhere, but Bruce Pritchard finally he picked up on it. So I get what you're putting down, and I think Tom Pritchard had a lot to do with that because Tom was kind of like on the same page with me. Tom Pritchard was really, really cool, and he was a tremendous worker. Tom Pritchard, what an amazing wrestler he was, and so we started the program at Edge, and I just kept saying on him, man, it'd just be really cool, and then it clicked. One day they were like, we're going to put Edge with you. First they had Christian come in, so I had his brother already, and so now you got two little vampire dudes. Like, well, I'm a vampire. They never said if he was a vampire or not, but they said he was Edge's brother. So here we are. I got me and Christian, and then all of a sudden we have a match with Kane, and Edge joins us. Now, I don't know if you remember all this, but if you do, can you actually tell me what the storyline was? Because I have no idea. They never once said. I don't know if Raymond, do you know? You're not going to talk to me today? You don't know? So they were like, oh, they're brothers from a village, or they were this, or there was something. But they never, ever said what our beef was. It's the only storyline that I don't know. In the Attitude Era, that was never explained. It was just, they're the Brood. But the Brood thing came along because I was a huge, huge fan of the Lost Boys. And I thought a cool group of vampires, being a fan of the Freebirds, I thought the Brood could be like this modern day Freebirds, but vampires, And so it started out with me first, but I just kept wearing them down. I wanted this really, really cool group of vampires. And then they kind of, Bruce Pritchard, Tom Pritchard, get caught on it, Vince Russo. Now, Vince McMahon was never down with this. He was never down with the vampire thing or the Brood stuff or anything. And I don't think it was supposed to get over the way it was. Again, it was just supposed to be a shuttle for Edge because they came to me from day one and said they knew Edge was their guy, not Christian, who I'm proud of Christian because he could put a match together better than 90% of the people in pro wrestling back then, now, and probably on. He was tremendous. He doesn't get the credit he gets on the quality match that he could put together and get the best out of everybody and still get it in because he's always got to get it in. He'll get his stuff in no matter what. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's great because he does it in the right way. So, so where were we? So, they wanted to strap, Edge was the guy. That was the dude, and it's proven right. He's gone on. Hell, he's in the Hall of Fame now, right? Like, I mean, super proud of him. He was like quickly in there, I believe, the WWE Hall of Fame and stuff. But Edge just tremendous. So that was the right call on their part. They saw talent. They saw a good-looking guy, and he's a tremendous human being. Let me tell you, like Adam is like, he's a genuine, whatever word I'm trying to spit out. He's just a good person, man. He is one good human being, and I loved him and his mom. I miss his mom dearly. I still talk to him. He's a great dude. So the Brood came along we're supposed to shuttle Edge in, and then I kept worrying on him about these cool vampires and stuff. So they put the three of us together with Kane one time, and the rest is history. We weren't supposed to get over. It was just supposed to be a transition thing to move Edge on and stuff like that. But it carried on and went so on and so on. Now, speaking of that, when I did the ENC podcast with them, I think Adam asked me, he goes, why do you think they broke us up? And I'd explained to him why they broke the Brood up, because it gets so much momentum, like the Brood was accidental. It was just supposed to be a transitional thing. But then here it is, the Brood, it gets over, and it wasn't supposed to get over. It catches like fire. And, Jim Cornette would like push it. He would compare us to the Freebirds and stuff like that, and that's tremendous, because you got an old school thinking mentality with some like vampire stuff, right? Only Jerry Lawler used to think about mummies and vampires and stuff, but now you got Cornette, who's very traditional and pro wrestling and looking out for it. Here he's finding it and seeing the positives into it, and he's plugging, they're like the modern day Freebirds and Push On and all that. So. Here it is. This thing's just growing like wildfire, and then they put us with the, like, then all of a sudden we were in the corporate ministry. So I think that was the slowest down, contain us, right? They put us in the ministry with the Undertaker, and I can remember coming out on the stage. Well, when they put us all together, I told Adam, I said, we're not going to last much longer. He goes, what do you mean, buddy? I go, trust me, we're not going to last much longer. Then we come out there, and I remember the ministry used to line up on the stage, and we were at the far left. I can't remember what arena it was, but we were far left sitting there, and people were like, ooh, because, the ministry was supposed to have all this heat, and then all of a sudden you start hearing, Brood, 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 Brood. Then the whole building just started chanting, Brood. And I leaned over to Edge. I remember leaning over to him and going, we're done. He goes, what do you mean? I go, we're done. It was about a week, maybe 2 weeks later. They said, we're going to feud you with the ministry. He looked, and I go, Adam, the Brood's done, man. It's done. He goes, well, what do you mean? I go, it's done. Like, just trust me. And then soon we feuded with the ministry. And then shortly after that, they said, you know what, David? This was Vince McMahon. You're the Brood. So, and next thing you know, they split the Brood up, and then I was with the new Brood with Matt Hardy, which I mentioned earlier, and Jeff Hardy became the new Brood. We feuded them, and then eventually an injury, I broke my neck, took me out of that everything. So, but they were well on to just splitting that Brood thing up, and then Adam, like this long story, like I get to this point, is he goes, he couldn't understand why they broke us up. So I had to say to him, when you go to conventions and you do public signings and stuff, outside or inside like WWE, what is the first thing people ask you about? He goes, the Brood, always. I go, exactly. The music, the Brood, the entrance, all that. I go, how long was the Brood together, Adam? I don't know. It's like 8 months. He goes, really? It seemed longer. I go, 8 months. So today, after all your runs, being a world champion and the things you've done in WWE and all the history you put down, one of the first things they ask you about is the Brood stuff. Imagine if you stayed it any longer. Would there have been an Edge? Would there have been a rated R superstar? Or would it just been somebody from the Brood? You got to think about that. And he goes, I never thought of it like that. And it's true. They just really it caught on. It was so strong, and it was going to consume everybody. Now, granted, I'm grateful for it because I'm here. I don't know how many years later off TV. I'm still blessed to wrestle every weekend, get out there and do what I love, and the music, the entrance, the whole thing. What I thought was like, because I actually wanted to make that decision to stay in All Japan. I really did. Luna talked me into it, but it just, things just happen for reasons, and I'm carrying it. I'm still, I got slam buddies and all kinds of other stuff, and that white puffy shirt that I hated so much. I wasn't a big fan of the white puffy shirt. I wanted to get out of it, but that it was just a memorable thing, and the entrance with the fire and the music and Adam, Edge, and Christian. It was just it was a perfect combination of everything being in the right place at the right time and timing. And there you go. Now, that's a long story short to get to the Brood, right? So there you go. So